Littlefoot Nursery. I am back here and I'm here with Evelyn. She is my Emerson full body silicone baby girl by Noe Art Dolls. And I'm going to change her into this penguin long sleeve romper by Janie and Jack. It's super cute. It has like all these little penguins on it. It actually has like little Christmas trees on it too, so it's a little bit wintry. It is starting to really warm up here in Southern California. The mornings are still a little bit chilly, but by afternoon it's definitely been warm. So I'm wearing like long sleeve long pants in the morning and starting to change into like a t-shirt in the afternoon. So we're in that kind of weird transitional weather phase. But anyway, so she's wearing this like really heavy velour sleeper. The reason I even mention that is because I know a lot of us like to dress the babies according to the weather, but since right now it's a little bit just all over the place, I think I'm just gonna be doing whatever, when it comes to dressing the babies for now, whatever I feel like. So sometimes you might see them in something long sleeve or short sleeve. The nice thing is they are dolls. They are not real babies, so they do not mind what they wear at the end of the day. Anyway, I wanted to do kind of a follow-up video to my last video. Just thinking, I was thinking a little bit more about, okay, if we, in terms of how this hobby is portrayed in the media, like what would you guys want to see ideally, in terms of how the hobby is portrayed? Because I think, with the media, they of course have their own agenda, and they're a journalist's goal is to try to get people to read the article, right, or to watch the video, because they make their living from advertisements. So, and they need people who in advertisements want lots of viewers at the end of the day. So, I think if you just kind of portray a, quote unquote, like more boring article about doll collecting, people people might not, I don't know, people might not be as interested in it. So that's probably also the media bias playing in at the end of the day. But let's pretend there is no media bias, and you could have like an article or a video out there, let's just say video out there, that I actually thought the article was pretty good, like overall. But if there was like some kind of documentary that portrayed this hobby, what would be the things that you would like to see? I so I think the biggest critique a lot of us had, or a lot of people had on the article and video from The Guardian, was just it didn't really talk as much about the art aspect. And so it's kind of like it automatically goes to like, oh, why would people want a doll that's this realistic and things like that. Oh, the other beef I did have with it was when they were talking about pricing. And yes, it is true that silicone babies can be up to 20,000 or more. I know Joanna Kay had a couple that sold for really high, and Romy Stridham and Claire Taylor have probably all had dolls that sold really high. But most of these dolls and babies do not cost that much. So, oh, this is so cute on her. I can't remember if she's worn this before. Oh my gosh, love this baby. Yeah, sometimes you guys, I will hold a baby or doll for my collection. I keep saying doll because it's like we're talking about the hobby, and it's like, yes, I know these are not real babies. We all know that. So, but I'll just think like, wow, how lucky I feel to have discovered this hobby and gotten into it, like about 3 years ago. My YouTube channel is almost 3 years old. Isn't that crazy? So, yeah. And this summer I'm going to the Rose Doll Show for the 4th time. Yeah, so I'm like now, I don't know, I feel like a veteran in the hobby now. And I was, for a couple of years, I was like, really, for many years, I collected, but I was like watching from the sidelines. So I would read and lurk on the doll fan forums, and I would watch YouTube, but I wouldn't participate. I collected privately, right? So, but anyway, it's the community aspect of this hobby is really awesome. Yeah, there can be its fair share of drama as well, but that comes with the territory. But just the community and just having people, getting to interact with people who also, share and love this hobby is just so great. Okay, so let's go back to kind of like what would my ideal documentary look like? I guess I think it is actually okay to, and I feel like Lucinda represented the hobby very well, from the perspective of a collector who, doesn't have children, and that reborns, do help, if you don't have kids and you, want kids, and of course, it's not the same, but it can fill some of that void. It really can, it's, you get that experience of going and shopping for baby clothes. If you want to take the baby out in a stroller and take it for a walk, like you can do that. Like it's, of course, it's not, it's not the full experience of parenthood by any means, but you get to have some of the fun aspects of it, and I don't see that, there's nothing wrong with it. And I think the problem is the media only hones in on that aspect of the hobby and that type of collector. And some of the collectors they featured in the past, like, and again, it could be the editing because they do a really good job editing, but they, definitely made them seem like they were not so normal. Like, I actually think Lucinda portrayed herself as just very down to earth, very normal, like, and I think normalized this hobby a little bit. So I could imagine somebody else out there watching that video, and maybe they're in a similar situation where, going through infertility and things like that. Having one of these, kind of seeing that, wow, these dolls can really help, right? And I love what she said about want versus need. That, yeah, this is like a want and a need. As she needs it to help her, and I think it can be the therapeutic aspect of this hobby is not to be underestimated. I think a documentary could also talk about how these dolls are used in nursing homes and how helpful they are for patients with Alzheimer's. There's a whole program, I think it's called Rose Cares, where artists would donate reborns each year for nursing homes, and the residents would share these dolls and hold them, and it might help them jog their memory a little bit. So there are true therapeutic aspects, not to mention just relieving general anxiety and helping with depression. I have to tell you guys, like when I found out that my two kids were diagnosed with autism, it was like one of the most difficult times in my life. And so having this hobby and was a real coping mechanism for me. It really was. It was so nice to feel like, I don't know, it just that had like, and back then it was like the portrait baby of my daughter Audrey, but this like, moment in time captured in a 3D art form of when she was a baby, and back when before we knew about autism and diagnoses, when life was simpler and we just had all the hope about just I don't know, a normal parenting experience. It was for me it was therapeutic to be able to kind of hold this like replica of Audrey as a baby and just like remember those days. So I think that I do think that the whole portrait baby aspect could be something that could be talked about, that this is just like a 3D photo of your kids, because that's how like it is for me, with some of the portrait babies that I've collected. The other aspect, and then I think doing a whole thing on the artistry would be amazing. If they could interview a few artists, both sculptors and silicone artists, as well as reborn artists. I think it was great that Stephanie and Jackie were selected to kind of represent on more of the artist front, but I definitely think they could have shared more about just the amazing art form, how there are classes for this art form. If you want to learn to make a reborn or make a silicone, you can take classes at doll shows. It's not just the Rose Doll Show, there's the IDTNS doll show, the Kansas doll show. There are doll shows in all over the world where people, collectors gather and they share. I think they could have done a whole segment about that, which would have been awesome, and just showing that like it is like truly for like the love of the art, that collectors and artists will all gather together. And so I think that artistry aspect, and just even maybe some close up around like how do they achieve some of the details, like you know, how do they sculpt a foot to be as realistic as possible, and just like that artist aspect, I think, you know, and in terms of painting or how to root hair. I mean, this is amazing. I mean, I look at this hair and she looks just like a real baby, you know. So I think that artist aspect could be played up more. You could talk about, you know, the community on Facebook, on social media, and you know how this is kind of like our venue for sharing the hobby, because it isn't so wide, you know, widespread or mainstream. And I actually think it would be okay to talk about, you know, how, you know, and I think it would be interesting to talk about like, oh, how do, I guess, regular people out there react to this hobby? You know, what are the reactions from people, and maybe do some interviews there. And I think, but portraying it in a balanced way, because I think there are some who would be like, wow, that is actually really cool, and others who'd be like, oh no, that's creepy. And I think it's okay to show those reactions, because that is the reality. So I just think a documentary that presented all of those things in more detail would be really, really great. And yeah, it's, this hobby isn't just about buying the clothes or setting up a nursery. You know, it really is the appreciation for the art form, and just how wonderful it is to be able to hold these babies. There's something just really awesome about that. And so anyway, this hobby is growing. The fan base is growing. It's going to continue to grow. And those are just some of my thoughts on what I would love to see in a Reborn documentary. But what do you guys think? And maybe somebody from the press will see this video or see your videos if we all talk about this a little bit more. And, you know, maybe take a stab at portraying the hobby the way that we'd like to see it portrayed. But I think it can't be like a short article. I think the problem was the article and video were pretty short. It really has to be something that is like an hour-long kind of documentary. It really does have to be that, something that would air on Netflix, or, you know, something that they just need enough time to cover all these topics. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and Evelyn's going to say bye to you all, and we will see you guys on the next video. Bye.